Give me a feel for what I'm not one of these people that's in any way immersed in the fashion scene, so I really don't know it or understand it all that well. I mean, I think I have a decent eye for things, but what is the Portland fashion scene like? And it's changing and really growing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like there's such a focus on Portland in general right now. We're absolutely a trend in itself. And I think the Portland fashion scene has grown leaps and bounds lately. I mean, we have, first of all, nearly half the winners of Project Runway have been from the Portland area, which in itself is really impressive. And then you look at something like Pendleton is introducing a new collection in the fall that's worldwide called the Portland Collection, designed by 3 local Portland designers.
Oh, really?
Which, is going to be getting a ton of attention. So I think that people are just really interested in us because we are very different than a traditional big city. We absolutely aren't New York, and we're not LA, and I don't think we want to be.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that's it's sort of this wannabe, but it's not?
Not at all. I think we're really comfortable doing what we do. And the nice thing about Portland, I think, is that we're not afraid to kind of break fashion rules. It doesn't matter if you want to wear white after Labor Day, and people are mixing $2 thrift store, shoes with a $300 dress, and it just all...
And it just works.
Yeah, it just works.
Nobody's really judging it.
I think as long as you have the confidence to carry it off, you really can do pretty much anything in fashion. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite designers locally?
Such a difficult question. There's so many amazing ones.
Yeah.
But definitely, my dress is made by Holly Stalder, who was really, I think, one of the pioneers of the Portland independent fashion scene. Her former boutique Seaplane just gathered all this attention and sort of press and a focus here. And she's amazing. Actually, my ring is by Sticks and Stones, it's a group of 3 Portland guys who are designing all of these accessories and
I like that
wooden cufflinks and tie bars, and it's great that I see accessories being designed in the city and by men, because there's not as many men designers. There's, Don Sharp, and I could name so many people, but there really are a bunch of people who are making a real living and designing, and not just designing for Portlanders, but designing for people all over the country.
So give me a little education then on, say, somebody, for instance, the designer who did the dress that you're wearing. How does she get that into stores or boutiques, or expand her line and make money from it? You hear people that, they opened a store and they designed their own clothing for it, and it really never got beyond their store.
Right.
Or maybe they sell it, at like a Saturday market type of a thing or something like that. How does somebody actually get into this and reach those commercial levels?
Well, I think that there's kind of a couple directions you can take with that. I think a lot of designers in Portland aren't necessarily looking to go the huge commercial route. The ones that I think are more looking for that tend to be the ones who move to New York and move to LA and go and work for, Calvin Klein or Levi's, or they stay in town and they work for Nike and Adidas, which are headquartered, out of Portland. But the ones that a lot of the local designers in Portland that are doing well and thriving do have their own boutiques. They will often have sales reps or contact and wholesale to stores all over. I know that people like Holly Stalder or Sarah Seven, who's another designer in town, they get custom work through the internet where they design gowns and just ship them off to brides, over in the East Coast and the Midwest and all over. And people just really do it based on falling in love with the images. And they're willing to throw down the money for it.
And that's probably a big part of it, is that somebody's willing to buy it, then somebody's willing to make it.
Right, and so many designers in town are willing to do custom work, which I think is always really pleases people, because you're getting something that you feel is for you and it's made for you, and that's hard to get. One size clothing does not fit all.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's unique to Portland in a sense, that so many of the designers will do custom work?
I think that it is definitely something that is very widespread in Portland. I don't want to say that it's not other places, but most designers in town will do that. And yeah.
So maybe not exclusively, but
yeah,
probably
exactly.
a little bit more so than other areas.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what about then LA, New York, these places that are fashion meccas? I mean, this is like where we think of, all the trends are set and all of that. That's not necessarily true, right?
I don't think that's true at all. Yeah.
So why do you think that is, or let me put it this way, do you think that's changing? That image of LA and New York sort of being like, well, it didn't come from there, the designer isn't from there. Do you think that's becoming more irrelevant?
I do in some ways. I mean, I think that the thing about New York is, it's always going to be New York and have Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week and have these amazing, designers there that are designers I look to, absolutely, for inspiration for writing and for trends, and I know that designers in town do. But the thing is with the advent of the internet, is fashion is so exposed to us all the time. Street fashion blogs are a huge thing. We have one in town called Urban Weeds.
What is that exactly?
It's basically, in our case, it's this photographer, Lisa Warren, who goes around town and kind of finds people that she believes are fashionable and takes a picture of them. And Urban Weeds hits like #1, stat ranking for street photography in the world. People look to see what our street fashion is in Portland. And the same way I'm obsessed with looking at street fashion photos from Venice and Milan and London, and I think that a lot of the fashion now doesn't always start on the runway. It starts on the street and just seeing people, and trends are set that way, going through Facebook.
Right. Yeah, really. I know. I've seen some good and bad on there.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
It goes both ways.
There's definitely both.
Well, when we come back, let's talk about the fashion shows, and in particular, this 1,000-person fashion show that you're working on that you just came from a meeting in Portland at. So we'll talk about some of those things when we come back. Be right back.
Up next.
Some people think fashion is frivolous, and I absolutely think that fashion is the calling card that we put out about ourselves to the world every day. And we're all involved in it all the time. Whether you make the choice to wear your favorite band's t-shirt, or a Chanel dress, you're saying something to the world about how you feel and what you want to project.